Yes, guys, welcome to another episode of Lilywhite Lounge. I'm joined by Travis and Ollie once again. Happy to be back talking to you guys and getting this last sort of chat off before Christmas. Been a very eventful week or so since we last had one of these. In terms of Spurs news coming up to the transfer window, another win picked up last weekend. I think we're probably going to skim over that because it wasn't the best game. But first, how are you doing, Travis? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, Kish. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad. And you, Ollie, all good?
Very well, very well. You?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So yeah, I'll just quickly touch on the Forest game. I think that was one that we struggled. I think the Brennan Johnson injury sort of threw us off. Had to put Kulusevski back out wide. And bring on Skip, which I wasn't a fan of. But I think it's one of those games we've seen even the top teams this season, your likes of Arsenal, likes of Liverpool, who've not performed well but grinded out results. And I think we're due one of those games where I don't know. I think most of our wins this season we performed well in, and we've deserved definite 3 points and probably by a couple goals. So I think it's one of those games that we just sort of get in, get out, take the 3 points, and move on. Travis, what were your thoughts on that performance? Just quickly sum it up.
I don't think there's much more to say. I think it was a solid performance. It was one of those where it was just important to get the job done. We weren't very convincing. I don't think they were particularly good. But yeah, it was a difficult scenario because of the injury as well. And Skip had to come in, so it's difficult to judge that. I guess the good thing is that it's not a long-term injury. It's just Johnson got a knock. But yeah, I think that's difficult because it changes the whole complexion of the team, not just Skip coming in, but Kulusevski going out of that creative role. And it yes, our main creative hub from the centre has gone, but he's still on the pitch. So everyone will probably still be looking for him. But our whole game plan's changed in how we find him because he's on the right now rather than in the centre. So I think that threw us off a bit. But we got the result in the end. Richarlison, good header. Kulusevski again pivotal to it. But yeah, it's a solid performance.
And Ollie, you have anything else to add on that game, or?
Yeah, I think we saw a continuation of a few recent themes. I think Kulusevski is really assuming that responsibility as a sort of talismanic figure for the side. He's very happy to have the sort of burden on the team on his shoulders, dragging Spurs up the pitch, popping up with goals at big moments. And I think he's probably not the player we thought we were signing back 18 months ago or so, but he's so vital for this team, especially in recent weeks we've seen that. Goal for Richarlison, again, really big for his confidence. So, yeah, not the best performance, like you say, but there were definitely positives in there to take.
Yeah, I think Kulusevski seems like he's matured just even over the last couple of months. The sort of need for him to step up and take responsibility, I think he's thrived in that with the likes of Maddison missing. And I think he's been the one driving us forward throughout this sort of tough run. Even when we've lost games, I think he's been a shining light at times. I think he struggled against West Ham, and there was one other game I remember him struggling in. But apart from that, I think he's been pretty faultless all season, and especially in recent weeks, sort of stepping up and being that kind of talisman for the side. So yeah, I think we've said a lot about Kulusevski and how good he is and how big his future is because he's still so young. So that's all very positive. But let's move on and let's start with. I think we should start with the transfer news that's sort of bubbling at the moment. A few players that we've been linked with, also a couple departures, if I can recall. Let's start with the main one that's sort of come about the last couple of days, and probably everyone's getting the most excited about, and that's Jean-Claire Todibo of Nice. He's a 24-year-old French centre back. He he was a player who was massively hyped at a young age, got her move to Barcelona at, I want to say 18, maybe 19, and then sort of struggled there, as kind of players do when they make those big moves sometimes. And had a couple loan spells, which Schalke on loan, I believe, wasn't that impressive there, but then really has found his feet the last couple years. And I think 24 for a centre-back is still super young.
I think he's 23. I don't know if he's soon 24.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he's 23 right now.
Even younger. I think that for a centre-back is like a baby. Like there's so much years for him to develop even more. And I think his Barca spell is not anything to sort of read about. I think that those things happen. So yeah, I think stylistically he's a great fit. Travis, what are your kind of immediate thoughts on him?
Well, my immediate thought, I don't know if you saw my face when you said Todibo, but I had a massive smile on my face because I just think he's brilliant, and that's not trying to overhype it all. I think he's perfect for what we need right now. He's athletic, he's well-rounded. What's really good about him is I actually think he could play either of the two roles of Van de Ven or Romero. Maybe not on the left side. I'm not sure about that in terms of passing angles and things like that. But in terms of the skill set that each of them have, Van de Ven preferring to drop off and recover with his speed in behind, and Romero to be more proactive. He can actually do either of those things. He's typically been more proactive at Nice. And I've spoken about this on Twitter a bit. In that he's proactive and aggressive, but it seems to be more of a tactical thing in that Nice's defensive midfielder drops into a back three when they're in possession. So he's actually got quite a lot of cover because the midfielder that drops into the back three is solely tasked with covering the space in behind. So he's got freedom to track the attackers and stay man to man. So I don't know how much of that is to do with the responsibility that's been put upon him. But even so, he's doing it very well. And he's also just got the raw physical and athletic ability to cover in behind. 1v1 defending, he's brilliant. Wide channels especially, because he's having to cover for the right back a lot and shift wider. And then on the ball, he's really good. He's really, really good. He's not anything exceptional. He's not going to wow us with his passing or break lines consistently, but he's very composed under pressure, comfortable in possession. He's got a good range of passing though. He can switch it long or he can punch it in between the lines. He's very well rounded, and it's a very exciting signing. And I don't really know. It gives us a good problem, but I don't know where it puts us in terms of who starts.
Yeah, and I think back to your point around his sort of style, I guess from all the clips I've seen, and I did a lot of like watching his clips on Wirescout and stuff, and I think it's hard to I can't picture him being the more passive centre back right now, but that's because of a lot of the clips I saw were him meeting the attackers, and you're right, that could be a complete structural thing rather than a personal thing. I think I'll probably want to go look at some of his younger days and see what kind of centre-back he is within himself, because obviously as a young player, you kind of see what a player has built from when they grew up, from when they've learned football, how do they defend naturally. And then you can kind of take context within the setup he's in currently or the setup he'd play for us or whatever. I think on the left side, I don't think he's one of the right-footed players. I wouldn't hate playing on the left side. I think obviously having a left footer there always benefits you. But he's so composed on the ball, and he's so good at carrying that he can break lines without those passing angles, but just through sort of carrying and then kind of lay off simpler passes. His ball carrying is probably his best source of progression, I'd say, over his kind of. He's not like what I see in Romero is sort of him slowing down and then punching a pass between two players into like a Maddison or into a Kulusevski or whatever. He's less likely to do that. He can do it at times, but he's more likely to do the sort of invite the press, from an attacker, and then skip past him, and then kind of lay off a 5-yard pass to a midfielder more next to him. But yeah, I think I'd still be so shocked if this went through. Obviously, Ornstein came out today and said unlikely, and Tottenham aren't looking to do much business in January, which I think is definitely not the case. I think he's sort of fence sitting a little bit, because we've heard all the kind of rumors about Spurs spending this January and how much, when we all know how much we need it. And I think sometimes these journalists have so many clubs to cover, they sort of just put them all under one kind of blanket and just say, yeah, they're not looking to do much business or whatever.
There's no outlandish statements or anything like that.
No, he's kind of playing his cards close to his chest, kind of just making sure he doesn't say anything that he can later be kind of picked up on. But yeah, I think the thing with Todibo, I think he'd start for pretty much any other side in the league, and we're maybe the only, barring maybe Arsenal, I'd say probably maybe not start for them. But apart from that, I think we're the only side he might not start at, which is crazy to think, seeing as centre back has been such a huge issue for us for a while. But yeah, Ollie, what are your kind of thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you've both said pretty much. I would probably still be surprised if it went through, like you say, Kish. But the talk was that there's been a lot of talk directly with him and his agent and so forth. You know, trying to nail down the personal side. Was it? Romano said yesterday that Spurs really want to sort of lay the foundations early on. I think they're aware of how important that position is in January. And on Ornstein, I think it's very easy to maybe fall into a narrative and look at history and how Spurs have performed in January windows before, which is usually being pretty passive and not really addressing areas that are required. But I do think this January is different. I think there's quite clearly areas of the squad which are lacking. And with AFCON, I know Son's going away with Korea as well, South Korea. I think there's several factors as to why this January actually is big for Spurs. And the quoted fee of around 35 million is surprising, is really encouraging. And like you both say, it would be an incredible signing if it gets done, because I think he's probably is the best option on the market, at least ready to go. And that's probably for young centre-backs with equally high or higher ceilings, but for someone who's ready to slot into this system as well, I think it's amazing. And he's probably, you know, he always jumps out to me when I was looking through the data, centre backs or whatever it might be, and he always ranks so highly in every metric you want him to rank in, especially in a possession-based system. And I think Van der Ven's already missed 5, 6, maybe 7 games this season. Romero missed 3 or 4 games this season. So there is game time there. It's unrealistic for both of them to play every match in the season. Next year, you hope back in Europe. And so the game time is definitely there for him. And I'm sure it's been sold to him that way. And yeah, it's a real sign of intent if it gets done. It'd be hugely exciting for sure.
To me, that sort of game time issue doesn't really concern me, because I think all the top clubs have 3 top centre backs. I think you look across Europe, like the likes of, let's say, Real Madrid have Militao, Rudiger, Alaba. Barcelona, you got Araujo, Koundé, Christensen. So I think when you're challenging on all fronts, I think you need 3 top centre backs, and that's always going to be the case. And if we're aiming to be in those conversations, you need those players. We can't have the big drop off that we've had with not having 2 set. And it's pointless going and signing a player who might need to be replaced in a year's time. So I think Todibo is the best of the market. There's other good centre backs as well who I think will have a use. I just don't want to see us sort of go for a less good option who's just kind of another, maybe a slight upgrade on Dyer and Davies, but nothing much better. Because where we're trying to get to is higher than that. But yeah, I think Todibo, that would be an insane signing. I think the price as well, which was quoted, might be a Man United specific price. I don't know how true that might be, but I think that's where the confusion might have come from, is that United probably would have to pay 35 million because of the ownership links, but maybe it would be different for us. But who knows? But yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on Dragusin, who's the Romanian, who apparently is pronounced Dragushan, with that S accent on the S. But I haven't seen too much of him. I was planning on watching a lot of him over the week before the Todibo links hotted up, and then I kind of shifted my attention to him. I know he's again a very aggressive centre back, which makes sense because that's the kind of profile we need. We're playing a high line, we're playing front foot football. And I know he was on the books of Juventus and was rated as a youngster, and now is at Genoa on loan, I believe. But yeah, do you guys know anything more about him, or are you similar to me?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about him specifically. I've watched a bit of Genoa this season, but they've stood out more in a attacking sense in terms of counter-attacking side. And what I will say is it's difficult because I've watched them and I know how they play, sort of thing. It's difficult to tell because with Todibo, for example, is a very similar system not system, but in terms of how much possession they're having, there's a good mix of high pressing, sitting a bit deep. You get to see them playing out from the back as well. Whereas Genoa are much more of a counter-attacking side that are very much reliant on their two forwards to sort of just give them the ball and go. So there's not much tactical structure there. It's also a back three as well.
One thing I was going to quickly touch on, actually, which I did notice about him, is that he's played across the back three, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a good sign because he'll be able to play both sides, I believe, which is massive because I think that's something they'll be looking for heavily, because that means you don't need one for each side. You might need Romero, Van der Ven, then one who can play both sides, and then you have the young guys who we hope will develop into top centre backs as well. And that seems like a good strategy if we can find someone of that mold. I think, yeah, as you said, I found scouting Todibo very easy because the positions I was seeing him defending and the things he was being asked to do both on the ball and sort of defending the wide channels, on the turn, sprinting back, stuff like that is very similar. So I just immediately thought, okay, I can judge him here. I can see what he's like. How's he compared to Romero and Van der Ven? And he came out very well. Whereas someone like this, a lot more kind of closely, you need to watch a lot more closely. You need to see the details. You need to see sort of very rare scenarios in a match and see how he deals with those and stuff like that. So it's a harder one to scout for, but I haven't done that yet. Ollie, anything to add on him?
Not really. I think it's been covered well. I can't claim to be a massive expert, but I do remember him a few years ago at Juve being sort of quite highly spoken about. And obviously he's followed Romero and getting a loan to Genoa, so definitely similarities there in play style as well as career.
And I believe Stuart's just said on the chat that he was a Paratici signing at Juve, which probably explains some of the interest there. I don't know how many of these Paratici signings are going to carry on being successes because it's
endless. It's endless. He supposedly left 12 months ago and we're still getting linked.
I know, they seem to, like, at first I was very against sort of just going with all these guys that he just knew of and just shopping in Serie A and shopping with players that he knows of, but he seems to really have a grasp of what makes a player work out and the scenario and the circumstances they need to kind of succeed. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to follow. I'm sure it'll be him or Todibo, not both, or someone else. So I don't expect we get more than one centre back in. And I don't want
on the centre back thing. Sorry, is that I like the Todibo link more than the Dragushin link. Not only because I think he's a better player, but also the age bracket. I think Dragushin's about 21. Is he 20, 21?
He's younger, definitely.
I think with the likes of Dorrington, Vuskovic, Phillips to a lesser extent, I'd want to be looking for the backup centre back or the third, rotation centre back to be that 23-24 bracket rather than 2021. Just because we've already got a great pool of young centre backs who are late teenagers. So it'd be a shame to stint that.
Yeah, I completely agree, because you're putting another one in that bracket, and then it becomes, well, it's just not all we need. We've got young, talented defenders who are going to develop. I strongly believe that at least one of them will be a good, like, starting level centre back for Spurs. I think they're all very talented in different ways. Vuskovic, Dorrington, and Phillips. And it will just depend on kind of who develops best. And maybe all of them will develop well. But exactly, I don't think we need another one of those. We need someone who's a guaranteed starter, and also just the higher age profile to kind of, you need a mix of age profiles in a sort of long-term vision, because you need to be able to phase players in and out. And once, like, say, Vuskovic is 22, you're looking at your other centre backs might be coming towards the end of their careers, and you can kind of, that's how you squad build. So yeah, that's sort of the centre backs done. I don't think we've seen any other centre back links. Obviously, we've had the Lloyd Kelly and Tosin Adebayo, but they've sort of gone quiet, and I don't think we're looking for a left centre back anymore. It sounds like we're looking for someone on the right because of how well Davies has come in, and the lack of cover on right centre back. So I think we'll see someone who can probably hopefully play both sides, but more likely a right centre back. But yeah, let's move on to quickly touch on Gallagher, because these links have sort of carried over from summer. It sounds like Chelsea need to sell for FFP, which isn't surprising, because I mean the amount of money they've spent is getting ridiculous, and they're still seems to be going this January as well. And I think Gallagher's a sort of desirable sell for them because it represents full profit. So he's come from their academy, so not signed for any money. So I don't know how much he'd cost, 40, 50. That's plus, that's all plus going into the profit. So I think that's why, because I'm confused why they'd sell him. They seem to be such a disjointed squad, so many new players. He's sort of one who seems to link people together a bit, and knows what the club is, and come through the academy and got those intangibles, and great presser, great professional. So it seems like a weird, when there's such a crisis in terms of squad morale, squad mentality, to sell someone who kind of represents the better side of that seems weird to me. But I don't know, they're on a weird kind of project. So yeah. Travis, what are your thoughts on Gallagher as a player? First, just as a player, and then Ollie, I'll come to your thoughts as him fitting at Spurs.
Yeah, so I wrote a thread on him earlier today. It was about more his fit at Spurs, but as a player, I think he's very well rounded. He's good. I think he's got a good ability at all the things you want a midfielder to have. So sort of when you look at that, I know it's like that Football Manager chart of like shooting, passing, dribbling, all that. He's sort of good at all of them, which I think is important in a number 8 as well, because you want them to sort of have that capability. He's sort of a jack of all trades, but I don't want to say a master of none, but he's not got that creative spark. He's not got that one thing you look at in a player and think, oh, that stands out to me. Very good presser, very intelligent presser, very hard worker. Really gives his all for the team. He's a good dribbler. He uses his body well. He's good at drawing fouls. What I will say is, and this is a minor con, is that he's quite over-eager at times, and he can get sucked in. He's a bit too ambitious. He gets carried away with how badly he wants to win the ball back. Can give away fouls. I think over the past 3 seasons, he's had 10 yellow cards or more in each of the last. He's the only one to have 10 yellow cards or more in each of the last 3 seasons, which sort of goes to show how over-ambitious he is.
I don't think we need any more yellow cards.
I don't. Oh my, yeah. I don't think that's it. We don't need Bissouma getting yellow cards behind him, and then yes. But Ollie, what do you think of him as a player and how he fits?
Yeah, I really like him. I'm a big fan. Really enjoyed his loan spell at Palace a couple of seasons ago, and I think we saw quite a different side of him then. Someone that crashes the box, really good timing with his runs to the box, and actually quite good finish as well from various angles, different types of finishes. And what we've seen this season is he's stepped up to assume a sort of more leadership role, which is like Kish said, I find the sale really weird. Apart from the profit, obviously Pochettino clearly likes him as a player, as a person. Not only has he started most of their games this season, but he's also been wearing the captain's armband most of those games. So to sell him in January just feels, like you said, it feels like a really disjointed between board level and
I think it would, and it does normally in the context of a club that operates sensibly normally, but the way Chelsea have operated in the transfer, it's probably in keeping with that, isn't it?
That's true. And in terms of how he fits into the squad, I love Travis's thread earlier. I thought it was really well written. And as Travis said on there, he's a pro. He's a good player. It'd be a good signing. He's obviously someone possibly really likes. There was the strong links in the summer, and we've already seen Johnson take life at Spurs pretty well. Another possibility signing. So I think his talent ID, his recruitment is really strong, and so I would trust the signing. But I just don't think it's that necessary, especially with other positions like centre-back, like left wing, maybe even striker, probably being further up the pecking order in terms of priorities this January. And I think he's quite similar to a player like Papsar. I think he gives you a similar sort of skill set. And I know we've got a lot of injuries currently, but once Bentancur's back, once Maddison's back, if Kulusevski moves inside permanently, I just don't really see a home for him particularly. And, Sarr's only 21, recently turned 21. And again, like we said, with our youngster centre-back, it'd be a shame to bring in Gallagher, who's only 2 years older, to stop Sarr's progression, because I think Sarr's ceiling is probably higher than Gallagher's. And yes, it just, from a squad building point of view, it doesn't quite make sense to me, unless obviously Højbjerg would like to move on. But even then, I think there's too many players for only 3 slots.
Yeah, my issue with it is there's a couple of issues I have with it. First is, I think we need a specialist 6, unless Postecoglou sees Bentancur as the long-term 6, which might be true, because I thought he looked really good there for that. I mean, it was 20 minutes, but he looked really good against Villa. So that might be the case, and in which case that sort of frees up another number 8 spot. In terms of if Lo Celso and Højbjerg move on, and I think that's the only way I'd have him come in. If you're going to move on both those players in January, then I'd take him. And I think he can cover 6. I don't think he's not gonna shine there, but he's the kind of player who's professional and tactical enough, and sort of he's a hard player to kind of write about or analyze, because a lot of what he does is out of possession work, which, I mean, there's some people who are very good at out of possession tactically, but I struggle with that in terms of scouting him. And also sort of the intangibles, like we said, sort of the mentality, the kind of willingness. And so, yeah, I think it's a difficult one, but I do think he could probably cover at 10, 8 and 6 to an okay level. 8's his best position, probably. 10 is a more sort of dynamic 10 rather than a creative 10. And 6, I think, just through his kind of tactical ability to take instruction and stuff, I don't think he'd shine there. But I think, like Højbjerg, we've seen him do at times is that kind of thing. But yeah, to me, it doesn't make sense, especially with Kulusevski moving inside, because I think Kulusevski could play as a number 8, and I think he's got the physicality, he's got the defensive work, so I don't think we need another number 8. I think what I'd be looking for is a specialist number 6 who can spray the ball left to right, kind of dictate a proper like deep line playmaker who can help us break low blocks, because Bissouma, of course, he struggled recently, but he's very press resistant. But his passing range isn't great. So against low blocks, we need someone who can kind of move the block from side to side and open those gaps up, and kind of take the game and run the game. Like Prime Pirlo, those sort of players. Travis, what were you going to say?
Yeah, one thing on that, I think I completely agree with you in that if we are going to sign another midfielder, whether it be a 6, 8 or 10, whatever it is, I think they either need to be that sort of dictator of play from deep, or if we are going to sign a number 8, I don't think he's the sort of profile we want. I don't think we want someone else that's got the legs and can cover ground and can work hard. I think we need someone that can break the lines more and be more of a creative presence than one that's an industrial presence. Because I think Sarr is a bit more like that. Bissouma's a bit more like that. And we need someone to take the creative burden.
Bentancur's got legs like for days. Like exactly. We've got runners in midfield. Kulusevski can run for days. Like I don't think we struggle with pressing. Like I think a lot of his good work, as I said, comes out of possession and covering space and being aggressive. And I think we've got that in the midfield. We're not missing that, and we've got that in the front line as well. And Richarlison, Johnson, Son, even Maddison. I was surprised how good his pressing has been. So I really don't think. I think he's a good player, and I think he takes certain teams up a level. But I just don't. I think he's one of the last things we need. But Postecoglou, I'd imagine Postecoglou would love him.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually think his passing is slightly underrated. I think it's easy to label him as a sort of energetic sort of Labrador, but actually I do think it's.
No, I think he's very technically.
He's really well rounded. Sorry.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think I don't want to underestimate his actual ability on the ball. It's good. It's like better than Højbjerg. Like a good level all round. His touch, his ball carrying. He's like just good at everything, and that's the kind of player a manager would love in the squad. And if we didn't have the kind of pile up of midfielders we currently have, I'd love someone like that in the squad because he can fill so many roles and be of such service to the squad over a full season, especially. But yeah, as we've discussed, I think it doesn't seem like a need right now. But yeah, I think we should probably move on to the Everton game quickly. Yeah, I don't have personally the best feelings about this game. I think Everton are on a great run of form. I think we are again facing 2 suspensions, which is just ridiculous, the amount of suspensions we're getting. I think just to quickly touch on that Doggy's suspension was just never a yellow card, let alone a foul. I think refs are just so quick to pull out their cards this season, which is just frustrating because I don't think it's just a Spurs thing. I think it's all across the league. I think every foul seems to have become a yellow card, which is just not what they're there for.
I've gone blank, forgotten what was the yellow card.
It was
shoulder.
It was a shoulder to shoulder, basically, and he just out muscled him and he fell on the floor. And even if it was a foul in his back, which I think he claimed, it wasn't a yellow card, but it wasn't even in his back. It was shoulder to shoulder. Exactly. For a team that are so aggressive, I think we get harmed by that more. But it's what it is. Yeah. So we've got another suspension. So I'll quickly go through what I think how he might line up. I think you'll have the Porro, Romero, Davies. I think he'll put Emerson left back. I think he'll put Højbjerg in the 6. I think he'll put Kulusevski and Sarr, and then Johnson, Richarlison, Son. That's what I think he'll do. I think Lo Celso's still out. Am I right? Or
it's a touch and go. I think.
Yeah. So I think that's the only real option. I really hope he doesn't put Skip in because I like Skip as a person, and I know he's one of like our academy products, but I don't think he's up to the level currently. So yeah, that's the lineup I think I'd go with. What are your sort of thoughts on Everton, Travis, and the kind of struggles you might face in this game, especially after the game on Friday?
Yeah, I think they are a team that are very underestimated. They are not just a typical Sean Dyche deep block side. I think they're very good at that, and we will struggle with that because Tarkowski and Branthwaite in particular they're really strong defenders. I think Richarlison will struggle against them because he can't necessarily use his physicality as he would against them. And I do wonder whether maybe he should play out wide against them, but then they've also got quite physical fullbacks as well. I think their midfield, Onana's very strong. I really like Onana. Quite a industrious midfield, physical midfield, difficult to work our way around, which is going to be tough because our midfield right now relies on physicality more than technical ability, I'd say. Maybe bar Kulusevski, and even so, he used his body quite a lot. I think we'll struggle with that. They're very good at counter-attacking as well. We don't necessarily have the best aerial threat in defense, not aerial threat, aerial, solidity in defence. And obviously they've got Calvert-Lewin and Beto. I think that could be a real struggle for us. Very good crosses, and we've struggled with crosses a lot this season against Wolves, Villa and City from set pieces. So I think that's going to be tough. They like to put the ball in a lot. They've got McNeil and Harrison in those areas. James Garner as well likes to overload the right side. They've got I don't know if Mikalenko's fit, but he's been good this season. And they've obviously got Calvert-Lewin in the box, and then they've got Beto as well, who's very strong aerially, very quick, who would be very good up against tired legs later on. And they tend to actually switch Calvert-Lewin and Beto out, I think, most games after 60, 70 minutes. So Beto coming on against our backline late on could be quite threatening. I think the main thing, and then I'll pass on to Ollie, is the things that they're really strong at in terms of defending deep and threatening from set pieces and playing the ball in the air a lot and utilising that, carrying the ball forward on the counter-attack, are the areas in which we've been very weak this season. And specifically ball carrying, I think Harrison's good. Onana's brilliant at ball carrying through midfield, as is McNeil. So I think that's an area we often struggle with, especially with Basuma not there. So yeah, I'm not too optimistic, as I'm sure you can tell, because I think we need to rely on technical quality more than anything. And I think the makeup of our side right now lacks technical quality. It's probably our side that lacks the most technical quality, with Bentancur, Maddison out. We're more reliant on Johnson.
Yeah, I think I was going to say I think Everton aren't necessarily a low block team, which you'd kind of expect from a Sean Dyche team. I think they can go between being quite aggressive out of possession and sitting off. But I do think they'll sit off against us because it makes sense to, because they've seen how we can struggle against low blocks. We're lacking that sort of creativity, technicality in midfield. And so I'd expect Sarr to struggle in this game because of, I think he's much better in those games where he's transitional. He'll be vital in kind of covering their transitions, but I think on the kind of attacking side of things, I think he'll possibly struggle. And I was going to say, I think Romero will be vital in kind of being that leader back there, because the other three aren't commanding, especially aerially. So he'll really need to kind of step up and be aggressive, and as he always is, but kind of especially aerially. And I really hope, I know you were saying Richarlison kind of, but I'd hope he plays as the 9, because I think we'll get a lot of space out wide and there'll be a lot of crossing opportunities like the Forest game, and we'll have to kind of score a goal out of kind of a half chance or any little bit of skill from Kulusevski or bit of skill from Son out wide, and then take our chances kind of thing. I don't think it's going to be one where we've got bags of space in the final third. What are your thoughts, Ollie?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, you think you've both sort of covered a lot of it there. Travis has outlined their strengths really well. I do think they actually have a lot of variety in attack. I think they can get you different ways. I mean, a lot of the time, I'm doing the preview for the game tomorrow, coming out tomorrow on Lilywhite Lounge. A lot of the time they go long from Pickford and Tarkowski and Branthwaite, all really good long passes, and then the front three quite narrow. So Calvert-Lewin usually will sort of knock it down, and then you've got runners either side of him. Doucouré playing as almost like a second striker. I think he's actually out for this game, which is a big boost for Spurs. He's been brilliant this season. And then, like Travis says, a lot of crosses. Harrison and McNeil both superb at that, and then both of them also sort of stay wide to get on the end of the cross at the back post if it falls to them. And they've scored quite a lot out of that situations. They play pretty direct to the strike. What my main concern, I think, is that they'll like punch a ball into the centre forward through the lines, and so suddenly, and then centre forward, either Beto or Calvert-Lewin is strong enough to hold off the centre backs, and then you'll have either McNeil or Doucouré or Harrison running on the side, and quite a few times this season they've scored through having the fullbacks way out of position and just having loads of space to attack and sort of just inside the edge of the box.
And that's why I was quickly going to say. I think that's where Romero will be so important, is nipping in and making sure Calvert-Lewin can't turn or give a flick on. I think that's where he'll win or lose this game for us, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's a big battle.
We're going to have to stop them at source, I think.
Absolutely. But I do worry with Emerson, especially on that side. I think he's way too often gets caught in two minds, and I think he could struggle in this game.
I guess the only thing with Emerson also at left back is Is Harrison left-footed?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's very good on his right foot as well.
He's good on the right.
Okay. That probably counteracts it a little bit. But I guess
they do have Garner. I don't know. It depends who plays where. But if Garner plays in midfield and then Patterson right back, they can really overload that back.
Yeah,
and they're all good crosses. Like McNeil's one of the best crossers in the league, I think.
And actually, good finisher as well. He scored a few times this season.
Yeah. No, I think he's a good player.
I have a question. You guys can hear me, right? For people in the audience who don't know me, I'm the producer. But I have a question because I know Kish is very passionate about this. What is Postecoglou's obsession with Oliver Skip? Why does he always come on for number 10s and number 8s? And every manager loves him. Mourinho loved him. I think Nuno liked him too, for whenever he was around. But Postecoglou seems to be putting a lot of faith in him too. I'm not sure if it's just he's living on the high from the Barcelona preseason game, or he actually sees something there. But I know Kish is very passionate about this subject. Oh,
because I think Skip was an outrageous prospect. I think he was unbelievable at youth level. As a kid, he was like rated so highly. I played against him a couple times when I used to play, and he was so good, like just so refined, impossible to get the ball off. And then you saw that clip of him against Holland under 19s, which went round, which was like them saying how he reminds them of Frankie de Jong, and like I think he was. And then at Norwich, I think he was very good as well. I think he's lost a bit of his acceleration and like explosivity and turning. And so I think when Mourinho and Pochettino put a lot of faith in him, I think that was justified. I think he was actually a good prospect at that time. I think he's declined, which isn't his fault. I think he's had injuries or just a lack of maybe first team football or whatever. And also we're playing a very, very aggressive front foot style, which requires a lot of physicality, and I just don't think he has that currently, or maybe he never really had that. I think what Ange sees in him is the ability to probably take on instructions, and the ability to kind of understand game state, stuff like that. He's very smart, and I think he's always been like the academy, like golden boy as a kid. One of my friends was in the same year group at Spurs throughout like their all the way from under 10s all the way to like under 16s, and they always loved him because he was just sort of quiet, hardworking. He played a year up his whole way through, so he's always been rated. I just think he's probably not quite at the level, but he'll be a good Premier League player. But I just don't think he's what we need currently. And I think Ange will know that, and he'll know he will be phasing him out. But I think right now in these early stages of his tenure, I think he needs people he can trust, who understand the system, until maybe some of the other players develop that familiarity, and then he can trust those more. But I think there's certain players who probably take instructions on way better than others, and I think that often goes unnoticed with fans because you don't see those kind of attributes of a person. So I think that's probably what he sees in him. But I do think he'll phase him out, and he'll know that he needs to phase him out. I think. Are you guys?
It's worth saying that he hasn't actually started a game this season since the opening game of the season against Brentford. Whenever Basuma's been suspended or there's for whatever reason, Højbjerg has been the guy that's coming to start. Skip's only ever come off the bench after that first game of the season. So
but what it is like him bringing on as like an attacking substitution at times, which is weird. And I think that's about his. Does he? Say that again.
I don't think he necessarily fits. I don't think
doesn't fit any of the roles.
Any role or the system at all. Can I ask quickly? He played centre back in the academy, right? Do you reckon he could play there again in the system?
No, because of his explosivity. I think again, like we were kind of talking about with Gallagher, different players, but it's that ability to be able to understand tactically and game state and sort of just understand football so well. That means that he can be so versatile, and I think that's often what happens in academy days. Everyone wants to be a striker, or everyone wants to be an attacker, and then they start putting the people that just understand football kind of deeper and deeper, and then people start working on their positions, kind of thing. He played kind of all over academy, I think, and then kind of went back to midfield and was a huge prospect. But sometimes it just maybe he was never going to quite make it at this level. I mean, Tottenham are one of the biggest clubs in the country. It's like, for him to kind of make it at the level below that is not it doesn't mean he's sort of a bad footballer. He's failed. You know what I mean? It's such a fine margin of football, and you have to be so unbelievable, especially with all the talent coming in from abroad and whatever. And I think we have those talents who are that good in our academy now. And maybe Skip could have been that, but I just don't think he will quite become that, which is not a bad thing. He'll have a good career.
I kind of think that Harry Kane has sort of just changed the whole perspective of academy graduates. Like, it's just a freak that a guy from the academy, like, it's one in not even a million, like 1 in a billion, that a guy from the academy goes on to become the best player in the team for such a long time. Like, we've seen so many players that are good enough to make the first team, but sustaining that and growing with the team's level is just like, you just can't do it. But like, a really good friend of mine covers Norwich City for a local paper, and he raves about Skip. He just, like, that loan, he just said he was maybe the best player in the Championship, or certainly one of. And I just think, like you say, it's just the difference in expectation and pressure is so great, and he just hasn't quite kicked onto the level. But that's okay.
100%. I also think with the how much money's in the league now, for the fact that these English talents are still coming through and being some of the best players on their side is crazy. Like Saka and Reece James and Foden, those guys, like, to be in a game, a league that's importing players all the time, and to kind of stay up with that level is ridiculous. So yeah, being slightly below that level is not kind of, 20 years ago or whatever, he would have easily probably walked into or maybe a bit longer than that, but walked into the side. Stuart's saying that Skip looks like a late bloomer. He'll be fantastic from about 26, 27, and that might be the case. He might go off. A lot of players kind of take that one backward step to kind of take two forwards. And trying to think who I've said, like Salah, De Bruyne, those guys who made a kind of move too early and then went away and then came back and became elite.
I personally just think he's at the wrong team right now. Like, as horrible as it is to say, I think he'd be fantastic at a lower mid-table side, at Crystal Palace. I was going to say Brighton, not necessarily Brighton now, but a Crystal Palace level side, so mid-table Fulham, somewhere like that. I think he'd absolutely thrive there. Just again, I don't want to stereotype and boil it down just to this, but just a hard-working, reliable presence who can cover multiple areas. He's very solid on the ball. He's not going to make too many errors. You can rely on him get the job done. He can win the ball
I,
back well. He's
I
well
also
rounded.
I think his run of games haven't helped. So like someone like that needs minutes. He needs minutes. And I think when he first came onto the scene, he was much braver in possession. And I think he's definitely got that in his game, like to break lines consistently. He wasn't scared of playing forward all the time. And I think as you get less and less minutes, and as you come on in these games, he seems to come on in games that are like 1-0 and we're holding out for a lead or we're chasing a game, the stakes become even higher, and your kind of every touch is so important. And that's when kind of you start seeing sideways passes and probably more errors because he's overthinking or whatever. So I think he was a prospect and maybe he's just had a lack of minutes, and he definitely just needs a starting place in a team. Andrew said Sarr and Skip have a history though against Everton. Could be an idea. What's the history against Everton?
I don't understand that. Andrew's going to have to come on.
The AC Milan masterclass last season. They had this.
Was it?
They went out in a midfield too. I mean, I don't want to see that.
You're the tacticians. I'm just the.
I mean, to be fair, Skip and Sarr instead of Højbjerg and Sarr isn't. I think in that Conte system, it wasn't a terrible idea. Do we have any other questions? I don't know how many people we have watching currently.
15, which is a record.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. By the way, hope everyone has a good Christmas. And if you have any questions now, put them in. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap up.
Well, read his question. How many goals is Richie scoring against Everton?
That's a good point, actually.
I reckon Nick's one.
I think he'll bag one as well.
Yeah, go on then. We'll give him.
He'll
probably do an Adebayor, won't he?
No, he loves Everton, doesn't he? Does he love Everton?
I don't know. He loved Watford, didn't he?
I feel like he won't celebrate. I think he's actually quite, for all his haters, I think he's actually quite like a nice person inside.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. Any more questions we got? If not, we'll wrap it up.
Go, one more. Come on.
One more. You won't get any until the new year. Andrew's put up
pigeon, though.
We got one.
Yeah?
We got two.
Okay.
Spacine. Hope you guys don't mind me talking. I prefer this actually than typing. Spacine says, do you guys think you'll get Todibo and maybe Gallagher? We discussed this earlier on, but just quick thoughts.
I would say I think Todibo is still unlikely, despite the reports. I think he'll go to United because of that starting spot and the ownership links. And I don't think we'll get Gallagher either. I think we'll have a good window. I think we'll sign a centre back and an attacker, and then possibly a midfielder. And I think that's a good. I think we need a winger, or a striker, one of the two, and then the other one to be done in summer. I'd rather a winger, but I'm kind of flip flopping in between, which is more important. Do you guys think Todibo is realistic?
It seems like Spurs are further down the line than United are. But I understand that the ownership links make that an obvious. And I'd actually be gutted if he went to United now. I'm sort of really invested. I'd much rather said Nice because I think it'd be great United or Spurs wherever he goes. He's a top player. So I agree with you. I think we'll make the signings in those positions. Just a case of who it is really. And also
new names will come out soon as well. I don't think it will be stuck like a transfer saga all the way through for this. I also think Postecoglou said he wanted some done early, so I think we'll see one before the first week's done. Hopefully, I mean I agree. That we usually say that and then we don't. But other question, Andrew?
Yeah. The last question we have is from Stuart again, who's been class today in the chat. He's been fantastic. Good job, Stuart.
Very much.
When has a player? No, wrong person. Does Højbjerg have a future in January beyond? January. I mean, there's been links for him to go away in the summer, especially. But he's been a part of the squad, and he's been important too when he's come off the bench. Not when he started, but off the bench. So, what do you guys think?
Travis?
Højbjerg.
Yeah. Does he have a future? What did you say, Andrew?
I'm sorry. Does he have a future beyond January, Højbjerg?
January. Beyond January, possibly. Beyond June, no. I don't think. I think if he stays in January, it would be to do because we haven't signed anyone else.
Yeah.
I think if we sign someone else, whether it be Gallagher or a new name that comes out, I think he might go. If not, we'll keep hold of him until the summer, and then I think he'll go in the summer. He's been a very good servant for the club. I don't fault him. I just think he's aging now. He's not. He's probably not best suited to the system. Probably good for him to move on as well. He'll do a very good job at probably a Champions League level side. I'd say.
I think he's a Champions League player. He's a Champions League player. I think Atletico, Juve, those sort of clubs. I think he'll shine as he'll play kind of 70% of minutes sort of thing. One thing I don't want us to do is what I saw in the summer, which I thought was good in that scenario, but not good in this one, is selling him before we get a replacement. Like, don't sell him
like Sanchez.
Yeah, I liked it with Sanchez. I think there was a sort of statement that had to be made there in terms of this is a new start. We need to. Some of these players have been here too long. We need to offload. I don't think Højbjerg is that case. I think he's a good squad player, and we can't get rid of him without bringing someone else in because of the fact he can play so many of the roles in midfield as well, and because he has helped us see out games this season. He's come on and calmed things down. I think that's one thing I've lacked in this squad is sort of the understanding of game state and being able to kind of temper the pressing structure, the kind of bravery in possession. He's the one who's come on and thought and been like calm things down, slow the tempo, buy fouls, go, and the other kind of things is the sort of dark arts like going down injured when you're not that injured, slowing the game down. I don't think anyone on the 11 so far has been able to do that, and that comes with building a team. And Arsenal are like kind of getting into that now after like 4 years, but I think you need that kind of siege mentality and that kind of when we get fouled, we're getting fouled so much, but we don't see our whole team surrounding the ref or appealing that much, and those are the kind of small margins that turn a game.
What's weird with that is I completely agree with you, and he's been that presence and he's been that experienced head. But then I look at some of the like game-defining moments, and it's been him sort of giving the ball away and making the rash decision. It is weird because I completely agree with you. It just contradicts everything that he comes on to do and does effectively. And then he has this one moment where he takes a free kick.
What the game I'm thinking of is, okay, City, I thought he came on and really changed the game. The 3-3. I think he really managed the pressure and the fact we were getting absolutely killed in that first half. And the other one, I think it was Sheffield United when he came on and we were chasing a goal. Was that him?
Liverpool. Was it Liverpool, Sheffield United? There was one game where he came on and he kept spreading the ball wide.
That one. So he understands. He can see a game and see what's kind of required, even if he maybe hasn't got the ability always to pull that off. I think he's good in those sort of scenarios. So I think I don't want to see him sold without a kind of adequate replacement, basically.
I wouldn't be surprised if we've already seen Juventus link for Højbjerg. I wouldn't be surprised if Højbjerg goes to Juve. We either get in Gallagher or Calvin Phillips.
I really don't want
on loan, maybe, but I think also Phillips been linked to Juventus. Juventus looking for a certain profile, so I think Juve either get Phillips or Højbjerg. If they get Phillips, we probably either keep Højbjerg or get Gallagher. If they get Højbjerg, we take Phillips or Gallagher.
Yeah. So it's like the little merry-go-round. That makes sense. I mean, that's sort of how January window works as well. Often it triggers, one will trigger, and then all the pieces start falling. As long as we get our business done early, and we're not kind of selling him on the 25th and then chasing around for a midfield on deadline day, then that's all fine with me. And also, I think
that's going to happen. Really,
I know. I'm sure it will happen. Well, we've got an important run in January, which is sort of why I think Postecoglou saying he needs them in ASAP because we've got games and obviously AFCON's coming up and Asia Cup.
I was going to say we probably won't sell him in January without a replacement already there because otherwise we've got no Sarr, we've got no Bentancur, we've got no Basuma.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you just came for the end or for the whole time, that's been a good chat between us. we're going to be back. I think we're going to be gone for next week on this, and then we'll be back with Lilywhite Lounge the week after, because obviously it's Christmas. But we'll be active on X or Twitter. And we will also have some videos up on probably YouTube or TikTok. So just keep an eye out for those. Basically, we've got our Everton preview thread dropping on Twitter tomorrow, so also check that out. That's written by Ollie. And yeah, have a good Christmas, guys, and a new year, and good luck for all of you watching on Saturday. It's probably gonna be a tough game, but let's see. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay. We did it. That was a long one too. That was a good hour. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Listen, I felt powerful. I had